13 episodes. I honestly cannot believe it. I actually have a YouTube channel finally after almost a decade of wanting to start with YouTube, creating things and then stopping. I have finally done it. Last year, I created this plan of starting my YouTube channel, and in it, I was like, all I need to start with is a 13-month, not a 13-month, but a 13-week plan following one of my favorite YouTube creators, Books and Lala. Yes, I take inspiration from everywhere. Just because you're making a content about marketing and personal branding doesn't necessarily mean it has to have inspiration from other marketers and personal brands. Ding, YouTube buzz. You can get inspiration from everywhere. So Books and Lala is one of my favorite content creators, and she makes bookish content in cycles. She usually starts with a haul, not a haul. She usually starts off with a TBR, so a seasonal TBR, and then she ends it off with her stats video. And in between that, she has a ton of other videos, and that all spans like 13 weeks. So I've taken a lot of inspiration from the way that Kayla, Books and Lala, does her channel, the way she organizes her channel. And it's something that in my plan last year, when I created a whole article about it, that's what I set out to do, something similar where I have 13 weeks, so 13 videos, and just a chance to do something where I can then reflect on the information that I gathered to choose what to do next. That's exactly what I'm going to do today. So in this video, it marks the end of one era, but also the start of another. And this is kind of a staple that I want to bring to my podcast on YouTube channel, podcast, whatever you want to call it. This is a staple I want to bring to it, where I want to start every new cycle of 13 with kind of a what have we learned, a reflection video, where I look back at the season that was and look forward to the changes I want to make, things I want to do differently. One of the things we're going to look at first is my content. So what ended up happening, I had a blast inviting people I consider friends, people who are part of my network on LinkedIn, and the people I thought had interesting stories to tell. I invited them on to the podcast to ask them questions, ask them about their journeys, and I think a lot of really cool insights came from that. A lot of cool conversations came from that. I got to speak to someone who worked at Red Bull back when it started in South Africa. And that was a shock, a surprise. And best of all, highlight of the season, I got to interview Hannah Rose, a former survivor contestant. And that was like one of the best interviews I've ever done. One of the highlights of this time so far. Something else that I suppose I didn't account for was, I should have sections here. Okay, so section 1, highlights. I suppose just having a YouTube channel, that was a highlight. I gained 8 more subscribers than I had when I started. My mom subscribed, which is cool because she only follows me on things where she thinks they're worth a while. She's not the kind of mom who's going to support everything you do. She supports you and you do cool things, and she puts her stamp on that. So that was fun. The conversations I got to have were really insightful and enjoyable, and just the response I've had from the guests and also from my community reading about like all the tools and the tricks that I got to harvest from the podcast episodes and to repurpose into other content. My communities on LinkedIn has been able to really benefit from that, which is such a blessing. So that would be a second, an additional kind of win or a highlight for me from this time, is that I now have less content to create. I take these episodes and I repurpose them into short form videos. I also repurpose them into LinkedIn articles, into articles for my website. So I can actually build that SEO without doing extra work, if that makes sense. Because the video is already there. So I can just take one highlight, one key thing from the video on LinkedIn and my website, I suppose. It's more of the content marketing and networking, lead generation kind of topics or takeaways that I highlight. And then when repurposing those videos into shorts, I kind of just look at whatever I think is fun and I post that. Yeah, my channel has gotten lots of views. I'm not, by no stretch of the imagination, am I monetized at all. But my channel has a lot more views than it used to have, and it's gaining a lot of steady views. Yeah, so that's a good sign. It shows that people are watching this. People are looking at the content, and I'm not one of those people who's out there looking for like a viral moment. I believe in steady, sustainable growth over virality. Lowlights, not really lowlights, but things I didn't expect, is I didn't have a plan much for what I was going to talk about or what the focus was going to be for this podcast. But I suppose in the conversations, certain themes developed. Like one of the top three best performing ones were Work Less, Earn More with Shay Casing. Then you've got Personal Branding All Wrong with Phyllis Williams-Stroder, and the Storytelling Brand Personas and Red Bull, which was the conversation with the former marketing director of Red Bull, who is now a business owner and founder of a local marketing studio and agency. And in that conversation, I got to speak to him about his work back then, and also like how he is shaping his company that he's building right now, and how all of that's happening. So that was fun. I also so that was something that I didn't expect, but along with that, I also tried to look at things that I enjoyed a lot. Like I enjoyed speaking to my friend and speaking to some of my friends, getting to interview an author, or authors, getting to interview authors, getting to interview Hannah. And I kind of enjoyed leaning more into the like softer skill topics like burnout and empathy on these digital spaces, building resilience and the importance of taking care of our mental health as solopreneurs, as business owners and things like that. I did not create as much LinkedIn content as I probably should have, considering that the whole reason for this podcast existing is so that I can market my services as a LinkedIn marketing consultant. That said, I had 2 videos regarding LinkedIn, and one of them was in my top 5. And the other one not so much. But I'll look at that. So that's some of the things that I didn't expect, some things that were highlights. Something else that I didn't really expect was shorts. I got to experiment with shorts a lot, and what that showed me was that I can actually use the shorts feed to get eyeballs on my content. So that's how a lot of people find my channel right now, is through the shorts feed. And then returning viewers come and they look not necessarily at my shorts, but people who return, they look at my long form videos. So people look at a short, they find my channel, and then they dive into like or they see a long form video, they look at that, or they watch the long form video, or I link my shorts to the podcast episodes. So they might watch a short and then go on to the long form video, and then from those long form videos, subscribe. So that's been an interesting way to get to learn how my specific channel can grow through YouTube. So yeah, I suppose we can enter into the next chapter of this whole thing, which is what I'm going to do moving forward. So like Kayla, I am going to create like bookends, starting with a recap video like this one. That would be probably the first in every cycle. We'll start and end with a video like this one where I look back at the journey and talk about, maybe answer questions as my channel grows. I can answer people's questions and then talk about like either changes I'll make looking ahead, or even just look back at these videos and see whether I've actually done what I said I would do. Something Kayla does very frequently. So that's the one thing that I want to do moving forward. Another one is series. So I want to create like little mini series within the podcast where in each cycle I speak to a friend, speak to a close friend. It could be the same close friends, it could be different friends, but someone that like knows me, and I would either interview them or they would interview me, depending on the vibes. So that would be that. And then a survivor player, a former survivor player who is either running a business, has run a business. I really want to push myself in that way, just because I love Survivor so much and I love business and marketing so much. And I think there are a lot of Survivor players out there who, I don't know, they end up going on podcasts talking about Survivor more than talking about like the really amazing things that they do in the rest of their lives beyond the game. So that's something I look forward to. And authors, I would love to do more of the interviews. None of this sounds like LinkedIn, which is why I'm forcing myself. Not forcing myself, but I'm going to create a Grow with LinkedIn series in mini series within the podcast, where once a month I will have a dedicated LinkedIn video, because at the end of the day, a dedicated LinkedIn video and a dedicated video around personal branding and like just the freelancer journey and how to make more money by generating leads and doing that on LinkedIn, because that's what I do. So yeah, that's the journey. Something else that I learned was my thumbnails. I'm still playing around with them. They're a hot mess at the moment, but that's okay because I'm still playing around with them. And until I find something that I like, until I find a vibe that I actually like, that I'd like to stick with, and then things will grow and they'll shape. Let me know what you think. What would you like me to keep talking about? What would you like to see on this podcast? Share your thoughts below, and thank you for being on this journey with me. That's all. If you like this video, check out this one that YouTube is recommending just for you, and tell me in the comments if they got it right. Bye.